If you saw an M-rated visual novel on your favorite game storefront, you'd probably assume it's because of the old tiggly-jiggly bits and raunchy scenarios, and usually you'd be right. But for Iwakura Aria, you'd be dead wrong. This game is mature. The same kind of mature you'd use to describe eating black licorice, for example. Iwakura Aria is a game by mages, who are most known for their work on the science adventure games like Steins. Personally, I've never played those, but they are on my list of games I do want to play one day. This is a visual novel with some very light adventure game elements, not to the point I would call it an adventure game, but they are there. It's available on Switch and Steam. I played through the Switch version, although I will say I was slightly disappointed that the Switch version does not have touch controls. Iwakura Aria is very much a quality over quantity style game. Most visual novels will have huge casts of characters, all with their sprites, and instead Iwakura Aria only has, really, 3 characters with sprites. However, the detail that goes into each and every one is top-notch. Other visual novels, you'll go many different places and you'll see a wide variety of backgrounds. Well, besides a couple shots of Ginza, you only really see the inside of the mansion in this game. And that would be a bad thing if not for the fact that you start to learn the layout of this mansion like it's a real place. And, of course, we have the CG art, which is limited when it's used, but when it comes in, beautiful and breathtaking. There's also some really amazing comic-style cutscenes, used very effectively to tell backstories or show other situations. Overall, it's about a 15-hour game, with some very light side and optional content. I myself have played through everything but 2 of the 9 endings, and I did all the side content. This game is only available with a Japanese dub in case people are wondering as well. As to visual novel, let's get into the most important thing, which is the story. So, this game takes place in the summer of 1966. You play as Ichiko Kitagawa, a 16-year-old orphan who's bouncing between foster homes. Now, post-war Japan is a very tough place. She recently just quit a construction job where she lived on site with a lot of older men who are making very skeezy advances towards her. Now, her distaste for men is very clear, and this is very important for the game's themes and is something you need to keep in your head at all times as you're playing it. One day, while she's selling her wares for the orphanage to make a bit of money, a man in a nice suit sees some art that she painted and offers her a job as a live-in maid for his daughter. And she accepts this job not out of excitement for it, but rather to prove the orphanage staff wrong, who put her down saying she could never do this sort of work. The man who invites her to the mansion is Amane Iwakura, this aloof and kind businessman who says that his daughter, Aria, needs someone there to watch over her because she is very sickly. When Ichiko finally meets Aria, she's surprised to learn that they're the same age as each other. And not only that, but Aria, to her, is one of the most beautiful people she's ever seen. Over time, feelings start to develop, but it begs the question of what is the true nature of love, and also what secrets are the family hiding? Interestingly enough, the official fact sheet for the game has the question of, is this a Yuri game? And it answers it with yes and no. And honestly, I agree. I don't want to get too much into it because part of the fun is learning about the story as you play it, but I'd say if you come in with that expectation of yes and no, you'll not only understand what that means as you play through, but also you won't be setting yourself up for it not going far enough in one direction or another. I mean, I will be clear, there is Yuri in this game. One of the major tags used for this game is LGBTQ, which Absolutely, that is a major, major part of it. However, I wouldn't say it is the genre itself. I hope what I'm saying makes sense. The relationship between Ichiko and Aria can only be described in my mind as toxic. However, I know that phrase, especially the phrase toxic Yuri, which I'm using in the title just because it's very funny to write the phrase Edgar Allan Poe's toxic Yuri, it might not be the best way to describe it, but that's the only way I could see it going forward. It is a game of an unhealthy relationship, of multiple unhealthy relationships. And that's not a bad thing, because it's showing a perspective of the world of love that I have never seen before. I don't partake in this type of storytelling. I'm not, in my eyes, the target audience. But because of that, I found it very interesting. And it's not something I agree with, but it is extremely interesting to see. Alright, let's start off with what the good of the game is. What does it do really well and sets it apart? Well, for one, the art. The art is the major thing that you're going to be drawn to for this game. Again, quality over quantity. Every piece of art, whether it is a character sprite, a background, the sketches, they are all perfectly done. Subtle emotional expressions on character sprites, backgrounds showing real locations that you can explore in the mansion itself. Every sketch in Ichiko's sketchbook reflecting her mood and perspective. It's beautiful when it needs to be. It's creepy when it needs to be. Every bit of art is perfect. There was not a single piece that I felt was out of place or done incorrectly. This also extends to the comic style panels that you get that show off more situations or more action. They're amazingly done and really pull you in. Overall, the user interface is amazing, very modern and polished, looking like something out of Metaphor or even a Persona game. With that, you have all of the modern sort of quality of life that comes with the visual novels. Quick save and quick load, multiple slots, different types of fast forward and skip options. Everything that you think should be there is there, with one exception, and that is the rewind function that some visual novels have, but I know that that's mostly in like fan-hacked ones. It's not usually in official products. Another outstanding element of this game is the framing device for it. It starts off actually 33 years in the future, with Ichiko at 49 years old, and she receives a phone call. Your actions over the course of the story will determine who's phoning, what is her life like at this point, and they are very different. The endings are extremely different from each other, to a point where it almost feels difficult to reconcile that this is the same character who is able to achieve all those different endings. One of the more intriguing aspects is the fact that there are adventure game style sections where you are given free reign to explore the house. They clearly mark the room that you have to go to advance the story, but other rooms will usually have optional dialogue, and multiple even if you return to them after that, which is sometimes charming, sometimes funny, sometimes unsettling, and sometimes helps you start to learn the answers to some of those mysteries a little bit quicker. Another aspect that has to be praised are the characters themselves. They are extremely well-defined, and almost going beyond three-dimensional, they nearly feel four-dimensional. Every one of them not only has their outward-facing self, but an inward-facing self as well. And this Victorian meets post-war setting creates extremely interesting character dynamics, some of which I've never even really seen before, where characters will interact in a way that takes you by extreme surprise, because it's something that I've, at least, never seen in a story. Maybe it's because I'm not used to reading much Victorian-style literature or even Yuri fiction, but I was really taken aback at some of the things that are said and done by these characters, in a positive way, I should say. Finally, one important thing is the pacing of the game. I'd say it feels faster than most visual novels, owing to its only 15-hour runtime there. things happen faster than you might be used to in other visual novels. However, if you're not an avid visual novel reader, you might still come away thinking like, man, it's taking a while to get into this because, again, 15 hours, right? It's not a movie. It's going to take a bit for characters to open up. But if you are a visual novel reader, it will happen faster than in other similar visual novels with longer runtimes. Something that is given a good amount of time are those ending scenes, some of which will make you deeply uncomfortable, which is a good thing. I think visual novels need to make you feel things viscerally to be good. If you're an extremely empathetic individual, you may even find your own body feeling some of the things that you see described to you. Of course, no game is perfect, so we need to discuss some of the things that I think could have been done a bit better. One of the things is that I felt there wasn't enough written description for my tastes. I'd say even games like Phoenix Wright had more written description of the environments. Because we only see things from Ichiko's point of view, and her knowledge base is so small, we don't get much information about things in the house that aren't seen, or more details about them. I love clicking on objects in games and just hearing them described in ways that fills my brain with the images of them, and unfortunately there just isn't a lot of that here. In general, I'd say while the writing is good, it's not outstanding, and I can't tell how much of it is from the original Japanese text or how much of it is the localization. Of note for the localization, there are a number of typos. I'd say the majority of which don't hamper your reading, but are clearly visible, but there was one that really took me out of it because I had to stop and listen to the Japanese voice line to go, oh, that's not what she said. It would make sense if you were only looking at it as a single string, you know how they localize games, but in the context of the scene, it was just wrong. Right? And it was a pretty important one, so it is worth saying that that is there. Otherwise, I'd say the localization is good with explaining things that need understanding for Japanese culture, but overall, it's written okay on my end. Now, there's one thing that is very much a matter of choice. It is very much a intentional decision, but it's something that killed me every time I read it, and it was there all the time. This game does thoughts in parentheses, and normally when you have those thoughts in parentheses in games, you see them end the thought with punctuation either in or outside the bracket. In this game, they do not, which looks every time to me like something I need to correct. I am an English teacher, and whenever I see that, it makes me want to go, this is incorrect, please fix this. I know it's a matter of choice, and it's technically not incorrect, but it looks incorrect for me, and it's something that plagued me the entire game. Some more other small gripes. I found these sound effects, at least on the default settings, to be extremely loud, making even things that shouldn't be scary, right? Taking a pencil off a table shouldn't hit you as hard as the jump scares, right? Another thing that got me was that I felt the choices in the game were very random. There's a small choice much later on where you're given either that you need to check your wallet or check your shopping list. Things that are entirely innocent, and there's no context as to what it would mean to pick one or the other. Well, one of them sends you immediately down a bad ending, and the other one continues you onto the story. And in my eyes, I found it to be very random why one led you one way and one led you the other way. I think that's not great. I think your choices should be done with the full expectation of I understand what is being said and where this will take me, but I found a lot of them were extremely arbitrary and could just blindside you. And I guess finally, and this is kind of one of the biggest ones, is that once the mysteries are all solved, and they do get solved, I just don't think there's enough meat for me to ever go back to it. Other visual novels will sometimes have this issue, but they have things that make you want to go back, whether the mysteries being so deep that you forget about them and want to go back to them, Or you play a game with slice of life happy moments that you want to relive, or something with comedy, or even something with more of that elaborate, flowery prose, this game doesn't have any of that. And it means that once you complete it, I unfortunately don't think there's ever any reason that you'd want to return to this, which, of course, is one of the problems with visual novels, but I feel like it hits this one hardest because once the mystery is solved, it's a pretty basic solution and it's kind of over, you know? So, to sum it all up, I think this is a very well-crafted visual novel. I don't think it's one I'd call one of the all-timers, but it felt like picking up a random old period piece novel, where you come into the world, experience it, and leave with nothing. It's not the start of some big franchise, but a one-off tale you play while sitting by the fire, and when you're done, you put it away on your shelf to remind yourself every now and then that you read it, but not something that necessarily you'll return to, and you might recommend other people play themselves. Overall, I give this game a rating of 8.5 out of 10. If you're interested in more visual novel gameplay, and especially blind reactions, you can check out some other videos on my channel here. This was a bit of an experimental thing, because I was given a review code but told I can't show any footage, so can't really do a let's play. So I decided, you know what, let's do a written review to change things up. So if you're interested in more of these, please let me know if this is something you like, or if you're going to say, no, stick to your lane, well, hey, your opinion is equally as valid. Thank you for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time for some more. Ciao.